Well, back here at Pac-12 Football Media Days, Gardner Minshew is a hard act to follow, but if anybody can do it, it is the head coach at Washington State, Jake Dickert. It's amazing that he was only on campus for 1 year and has had such a big impact on that fan base and community. Coach, it's great to see you. It's kind of hard for me to believe that you're entering just your second full season as the head coach of this program. So give us a state of the union and how things are going. You got 2 new coordinators that you're welcoming in, some new faces coming in, and some old ones coming back.
I'm going to try to match Gardner's energy. I think that's a clear word, and I think we sent him that shirt, and he cut the sleeves off immediately. So it was a great place to be. But I think one thing when you sit inside of our building, I think energy is a key word. I think energy is something you feel. I think it's something that's real, and I think it's something through the connection of your players and your team that really shows. And I think that's what we have in year 2. I mean, we got a bunch of really veteran returning players that have really carried that over. The big phrase we're talking about is change has equaled growth. And you can talk about a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new strength and conditioning coordinator, but we've really grown as a program, and I think we learned from year 1. I've learned a lot as a head coach in year 1 to year 2 and how to run a program, and I think those are the things that you're really going to see as we go throughout this season. Our guys are bigger, faster, stronger, and I think Coach Ben in the weight room, good strength coaches train physicality. Great ones train mental toughness, and I think Gardner alluded to it the right way. There's a blue collar, there's a chip on our shoulder, and I think this team in 23 has a real humble conviction. I think we know who we are. I think we know how we need to win games, but I think it's going to be an exciting brand of football. I think on offense, the one thing Coach Arbuckle has done from the moment he stepped in our building was just inject life into our offense. The stats are out there. He led the number 1, passing, down the field in the country at Western Kentucky last year. That fits Cam Ward's skill set to a T. And to bring in a guy with that type of life, that type of quarterback training, we fixed Cam's drop, we fixed the fundamentals, and I think people are seeing it all over Netflix on this quarterback show, the synergy between head coach and Cam and what we have now going into year 2. I think you're going to really feel that and see that on the field, and I think our offense is primed to take a big step forward. And Coach Schmedding on defense, I think there's no harder job than coaching, what the old head coach does, but we have to evolve. We've been running the same system for 3 years, and Jeff has come in and really just adapted to being a little bit more multiple and evolving, and the challenge is real in this league defensively, and to have Ron Stone Jr., Brennan Jackson, elite edge rushers in this year. Dare I say Ron is a colleague, from the championship game as a student commentator. But we feel like we have one of the best corners in the country in Shaw Smith-Wade, freshman All-American, Jaden Hicks coming back. So 4 all-conference players. I don't have the history of it at Washington State on defense. I think is going to be pretty special. Consistency in the special teams unit, and like I said, I think we know who we are. Our slogan this year is all we got, all we need. And I think it's just a no excuses approach to knowing what we need to do. We control our effort, our execution, our character, our connection, our finish, and just excited about making the journey with this team this year.
Love it. We'll open it up to questions from the media.
Okay, well, yes, we'll open it up for questions from the media now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring over a mic. Again, just a reminder to please state your name and affiliation. We can start up here in the front on the left.
Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents Network. Coach, after the bowl game, you had time to kind of, reassess everything. How did the players kind of mentally recover from that? And what was the biggest thing you took away from that whole week and just preparation in the game itself?
Well, I think the biggest thing is football is the greatest representation of life out there. In adversity, whether it's happening now or happening later, it's coming for us all. So one of the biggest things we try to train in our program is just how you handle those situations. So yes, we've been throwing curveballs, and we didn't have those coordinators, but we had our team. We had conviction of what we wanted to go out there and accomplish. There's only been a few teams in the history of Washington State to win 8 games, and we were on a mission to try to do that. We fell up short, but those are things that we can really grow and gain from. And bowl games still, to me, you earn that, and it's a special thing. And, I want to give a nod to Coach Leach because I know everyone, used to remember him for his funny things at media days and talking about pirates and mascots and all the fun things. We remember him at Washington State for making us believe that we can win again. And we're going to honor Coach Leach at our September 9th home game against Wisconsin. But excited about building on that transition. He went to 5 straight bowl games. We've continued to do that. To do 7 straight bowl games at Washington State is now the new standard. So we're excited about playing and preparing in those games. And, I take away nothing but positives from that week in LA.
Next question will come from the far right.
Greg Wood, spokesman review. Hey, Jake, what do you think you learned most from being a head coach in year 1, and how does that affect how you go into year 2?
I don't know if we have enough time. I think in any walk of life, year 1, you really pour every ounce of everything you have into it because it's yours. I think we all make fancy plans. I'm going to do this and that, and this is how I'm going to build a program. But I think at some point, it's got to go to application, and I love the X's and O's. I love sitting in those meeting rooms. I miss that with a great passion, but I think I've been called to something greater than just the fundamentals of the game, and that's being a true culture builder, trying to find ways to get 18 to 23-year-old young men to see the game outside of their own little atmosphere. I think it's tough to do in today's world, in today's climate. I like to say balance in college football, it's impossible. It's managing the imbalance. And the one thing I learned is about having, better presence in my personal life, and Pullman is no better place to do that. I have a Lewiston tournament I got to get to, a 10U baseball tournament after this weekend when we get back. So I can see my daughter doing theater in 4 minutes. So I think there's a lot of things as a head coach. I'm more convicted than ever in how we want to run a program. And I think clarity, when you can provide a mature group of young men clarity and make them understand exactly why we're doing something. In our program, we talk a lot about why is a special word, okay? For us, it's why with an exclamation point. When I tell our guys, this is why we do it, this is why we have to go about it this way, this is why we're going to go execute it, they're mature enough to go do it, But I challenge our coaches. Are they leaving your room thinking, why, question mark? Why am I doing this? Well, this is exactly why I need to go out there so I can be the best that I can possibly be. So I think that's well-rounded, but empowering our coaching staff, empowering the leadership council on our team to take ownership, those are things I just learned you can't do it all by yourself.
Next question from the far back right.
How you doing, Coach? Anthony Morrow, New Stitch Media. Right here. What upgrades have you made to what upgrades has happened to the program that you feel is going to best help get the outcomes that you're looking for this season?
Well, I think I alluded to it a little bit in the opener. Change equals growth, and college football is changing at an incredibly rapid rate. I think the biggest thing is we have the greatest game on the planet. I believe that. Even in football, we're different than the NFL. We're unique, we're high tempo, we're fast paced. Sometimes I watch Sundays and I fall asleep at the pace of what's going on. So I think there's a lot of things. We got to stay above the curve at Washington State. I'm excited in September, we're opening up a brand new indoor practice facility. The state-of-the-art Taylor Sports Complex that's just going to be a few feet away from, our current Cougar football complex. In January, we're opening up what we're calling the Champions Center. It's going to house our academic resources. It's going to be a state-of-the-art place where our guys can, go learn, and part of that is player development, but it's also half of it, it's two-pronged. It's going to house all of our mental health resources. And that's just 100 feet from our dorms. I'm really proud of Washington State and being at the forefront of what we're trying to do, not only physically for our student athletes, but mentally as well. We got new practice turf. There's a lot of things that we're doing institutionally to show who we are. And I think there's a misnomer out there, that Washington State, just because we're in the Palouse and, we got a bunch of tractors and combines and in a small town that we're some, sidebar to the Pac-12. And the 10 teams that are going forward, Washington State, I think, is 4th in TV viewership. There's Cougs all over this country that see that flag waving in College game day that know exactly what it's like to be a Coug. And I think that passion and our donor base and what we want to do going forward is going to keep us where we want to be, not only in the Pac-12, but nationally as well.
Next question, same area.
Coach Kevin Turner, Sunderville Radio Network. Just a follow-up to that, I was reminded when we were in the Palouse and I was driving the rental car and seeing the winter wheat coming in and just this bucolic community and the cool fall chill in the air. And then I thought to myself, wow, you compare it to Seattle or the Bay Area or Los Angeles or Phoenix. And I was thinking immediately about, how do you draw that NIL and how do you stay competitive, and what is that landscape like in the Palouse right now with that NIL support?
Well, I think more importantly, you got to know who you are. And I think Washington State, I'm at a place that really fits me. My graduating class was 27 kids in high school. I know wheat fields. I know small town. I know great people. I know blue-collar toughness. I know what that means. And I'm at a place that I really, really fit. Yogi knows. I got Yogi up at 6 a.m. For a practice this spring. It was good for him. It was chilly. It was 30 degrees. But we're different. And different is good, because when you come to Pullman, you come to Washington State, you better love football. And there's a lot of players out there. The college landscape is changing. NIL might be a big city, thing and rule, and we're going to continue to evolve to do it our way. I think we've doubled down on recruiting kids from the Pacific Northwest. Guys that understand what it's like to be in our place and have a passion for it. And I don't care about stars. I care about finding the best fit for our program and the right guys that are going to attack it. Because one thing I tell our guys each and every day, when you snap the football on Saturday at Martin Stadium, it doesn't matter what the guy across from you makes. Okay, it's about the toughness, the factors, and can you do your job in the toughest of moments better than they can? So I know the money gets the notoriety. I think we do need a federal legislation to equal the playing field across the country for everybody. And I don't know if there's a great, league that doesn't have consistency as they go throughout the rules. And I think there's one way to do that. We will continue to navigate it, and that's part of the all we got, all we need. It's a no excuse approach. Whether we win or lose is going to have nothing to do with the NIL that we have in a collective. It's going to be about our guys executing better than our opponent. We had a lot of learns last year. There's a lot of adversity that we went through, and we learned from those situations, and excited about going and finishing off those this year. And once again, that has nothing to do with NIL.
Second row on the right.
Hey, Coach. Lisa Horn, Pigskin Grind. Speaking of leveling the playing field, what was your reaction when the conference decided to get rid of the divisions and just play best two out of the conference? I know a lot of teams could benefit from it, and I was wondering how you feel the Cougars could benefit, or maybe not, but I'm just wondering what your reaction was to that.
Competition is one of our 4 core values of our program. And from a little kid, when you compete when you win, you go to the dance. You go to the prize. Probably in our little sphere, we used to just have to be the best of 6 teams to make the championship game. I understand that. But in the broad spectrum of college football and teaching our guys about life and competition, you win, this is what you get. We have side competitions of kickball and dodgeball, and we call it the race for the roses. So we have a lot of team competitions, and the victor gets the spoils. And that's part of being an ultimate competitor, and it also replicates life. You don't get to be the CEO of a corporation just because you're the one of 6. You're one of the best of the best. And it's a philosophy that, my dad taught me. He never let me win, ever. Until I was about 16 years old, I was finally good enough to beat him. So it's one of those things that competition is the core of life, and I'm really proud to say the Pac-12 went to the right format.
Staying on the right side here in the booth.
Morning, Coach. I wanted to ask you, Trent Dilfer had made comments recently about tampering with the portal. I'm wondering if you've had any experiences with this, or if you had any thoughts about the portal and tampering.
Well, I think it's a pertinent question. I appreciate you asking that. I think my comments are well documented. If you followed our journey all the way since December, and I think it's an issue. I think Coach Kiffin hit it on the head with the pay for play and some of those things that are happening, and the inducements and the enticements that are happening behind the scenes. I think it puts a lot of pressure on young people, because you look at some of the numbers, and whether they're real or not, that there's a pressure that comes with that, and I think that's something that we need to do, obviously from my seat as the head coach, but us in college football to preserve the game, and it's a competitive balance that is needed. Consistency in NIL, consistency in scheduling, so let's determine who the best team is. I'm proud of the CFP. I'm excited that we're going to a true 12-team, league, and the Pac-12 champion is going to get his rightful seat at the table. Go play against the best. Go show why we've worked so hard. So I think it's real. I think it's out there. I don't have any immediate solutions for you, any big wow moments. Besides that, I know it's putting a lot of pressure on our student athletes.
Coach, take us inside your office for a minute when that does happen, and all of a sudden somebody slides into somebody's DMs and say, hey, we've got this for you to possibly come here, and they come to you. What's dialogue like for you?
Well, I think first of all, you have to realize I've built such a relationship with that kid that he trusts me to go do that in that moment, right? Because a lot of times they would run from that and hide, right? But one thing I like to do, Yogi, is to make sure our guys never see my door as the principal's office. This isn't the place where you go get in trouble. Come in here, hang out. There's a lot of things that happen, but there's a lot of trust that needs to be built to go through that. And we work through it together. With some of the numbers that you're talking about, I put myself back to being a Division III player in a GA and paying for school. And I think one thing I'm really proud of, Ashley and Yogi, that you guys do is really share the stories of student athletes, okay? Because it unveils what's behind the mask. When we talk a lot about Washington State, it's person over player, and that's a hard line. That's not a gray line. It's not a dotted line. It's not a blurred line. And I think once you understand that these are people's real lives, these are real temptations, and let them know that I'm here for them. And I show the value of our program. I try to be really proactive instead of reactive. Hey, this is what's going to happen. In 3-4 weeks, this is what's coming. Are you ready? I'm here for you. Have a great support system. Make sure you know and educate yourself on, what happens. But, with some of the numbers, it's taken me a long time to make that amount of money in my life. 10 years ago, I was making $27,000 as DB coach at Southeast Missouri. So it's one of those things that there's a new pressure that comes about at it. And I think when you take it from an approach of real care, I think that's when you can work through those situations successfully.
You talk about what you were doing not too long ago. I want to ask you about your new offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, 27 years old, youngest Power 5 coordinator. I was talking to him the other day, and he said that when he got a call from you, he thought it was a spam call. He said, I don't know anybody from Laramie, Wyoming. What was it about him as the first-year coordinator at Western Kentucky and his path that made you believe that he could run this offense?
Well, I think it came from the vision of what we needed to do on offense and not restart. When we're trying to build a program, yes, continuity is everything and stability means a lot. So there's a certain amount of guys that have a style of offense that I think allowed us to take the step forward. The more I talked to him, I just saw his energy in his life, but the language of the offense is the same. But when you studied his film, I meant it. I look at it from a defensive perspective. And defending his offense, actually him and Jeff played each other last year, Western Kentucky and Auburn. And so it was an amazing, just as you went throughout that process, you saw him being the right fit for our offense, for Pullman, Washington. He's a small-town Texas guy. And I love it. I've had an opportunity to coach at every level of college football, okay? And I think throughout my journey, you realize there's a lot of great coaches that don't get that opportunity. I've been blessed to be around a lot of the right people that believed in me and invested in me, and more importantly, a lot around of great players. So age doesn't even come into my factor. It's the what you're doing, do you fit our place, and what can you bring value to? And I think Ben, every step of the way, has just shown that he's the right person for Washington State.
I got to ask, I know your hands are on everything within the program. Who made the final decision on the poster that went viral around you and the fellas and Bill Stevens coming here?
Shout out Dallas Hobbs.
Yeah, shout out to Las Vegas. And
so Dallas Hobbs and Carson, Dallas is a former player of ours, and I think he slid it by my desk, but didn't really say the whole idea. I know my wife says, you will never have a beard, as she looked at me with the beard and everything, but very fitting. and it works for our program. That just shows who we are. You got to have a little fun with what you do. I get to wake up every day and coach football, and to bring back Ron and Cam and do this thing again, it's been pretty special.
And we are going to bring out Ron and Cam. So thank you so much for your time, Coach. We're looking forward to watching you play. And I know that home opener is certainly circled on my calendar against Wisconsin. So best of luck this season.
There you guys. Go Cougs.